welcome back to the Curious Kid podcast. Since starting this podcast, we've already learned about some inventions that changed the world.
We got curious about microwaves, televisions, airplanes, and more.
But there is one invention that came before the others, and without it, the other inventions probably wouldn't even exist.
This week we are getting curious about light bulbs.
But before we get down to business, let us tell you the question of the week. There is a light bulb in the town of Livermore, California, and it is considered the longest lasting light bulb in the world because it has been on for a very, very long time.
The question of the week is, how long has the light bulb in California been burning for?
There are a few different types of light bulbs, but for the bulk of this episode, we are going to be discussing incandescent light bulbs because they are the most common and also the ones that you probably have lighting up your house.
The word incandescent means making light from heat.
That's right. Light bulbs make light when you provide them with electricity, but they also get really hot when lighting up your home.
The first light bulb was created in the year 1803.
That's 216 years ago. It was created by a man named Humphrey Davy. That's right, Thomas Edison did not invent the light bulb, but more on that later. The light bulb created in 1803, which was called an arc lamp, wasn't practical because it burned out after just a few hours, and the light was way too strong, with each arc lamp producing a light greater than 1,000 candles.
32 years later, the first light bulb inside of a glass bulb was invented.
It was James Bowman Lindsay who created the first glass light bulb, but it was not reliable. Again, Thomas Edison wasn't even born when this happened in 1835.
Thomas Edison was born in the year 1847.
And in his early years, light bulbs were not widely used because they still had lots of flaws. They burned out after just hours or days at best, and the light they gave off was way too strong and inconsistent.
But Thomas Edison made a lot of changes to fix those problems.
And to understand those improvements, we need to know how light bulbs work.
The most important part of the light bulb is called the filament.
If you take a look at a clear light bulb when it is off, you will see two wires running up the light bulb from the base. These wires conduct electricity and light up something called a filament that you will see running between the ends of the wires.
Please be careful if you are holding the light bulbs. They're very fragile.
Olivia found this out the hard way when she was helping me replace light bulbs, and I asked her to hold the old bulbs.
My daddy asked me to hold two light bulbs that were old, and then I crashed them both together, and then all the light bulbs crashed into lots of pieces. And then my mom came up to help me up the stairs, and my dad cleaned up all the light bulb mess.
Light bulbs are made of glass, and the glass is very thin, so it doesn't take a lot for a light bulb to break. And if they break into tiny, sharp pieces. So please be careful if you plan to examine a light bulb. Or better yet, let a grown-up show you the light bulb. So getting back to the filament. When the filament burns, it heats up and provides light. When Thomas Edison tried to find ways to perfect the light bulb, he knew that finding the perfect filament was the key to having light bulbs burn longer with the right amount of light. A man named Sir Joseph Wilson Swan created a light bulb with a carbon filament developed with cotton.
That light bulb burned for 13 and a half hours. That's good, but not good enough.
The following year, Thomas Edison made a similar filament that was able to burn for about 40 hours.
That's better, but still not good enough for me.
Well, Thomas Edison wants you to be happy, so he tested 6,000 different filaments.
Including human hair.
That's right, including hair, until he found a superior filament. He realized that adding bamboo to the carbon filament extended its life to 1,200 hours.
Bam boom shakalaka, that's a long time.
It is, and he did something else that allowed light bulbs to burn longer. You may think that light bulbs are full of air, but they are not. Edison discovered that air in the bulb would allow the light to burn brighter, making them die much quicker. He used a vacuum to remove the air from his light bulbs, and all of a sudden, his light bulbs were ready for everyday home use. The Edison light bulb was patented 139 years ago, in the year 1880.
And you know what's an amazing invention? Because the light bulb hasn't changed a lot since it was invented.
I know. Think about that for a second. The light bulb that Edison created 139 years ago is almost identical to the light bulbs we use today. Can you think of another invention that has been around as long as the light bulb that has changed so little?
Nope. They make new iPhones every single year.
I know, right? Every other modern invention seems to get upgraded every few years. There have been small changes to the light bulb too. For example, many bulbs now use tungsten as a filament, instead of Edison's carbon and bamboo combination. But it is amazing how Edison's light bulb has held up so well for the last 139 years.
Are there other types of light bulbs too?
There are. The other two major types of light bulbs are fluorescent and LED. We have fluorescent lights at our home.
Those are the long glass tubes.
Fluorescent lights are glass tubes filled with a gas, usually argon. There are metal pins at each end of the tube which provide the electrical connection. Like batteries discussed in episode 11, these fluorescent lights have cathodes, and when the cathodes can no longer power the light, it will need to be replaced. When fluorescent lights are turned on, they heat up the gas inside. When the gas inside heats up, it causes the phosphor coating of the light to glow, or fluoresce. That's why they are called fluorescent lights.
And what are LED lights?
LED stands for light-emitting diodes. These lights have a chemical chip inside a plastic capsule. When turned on, LED lights create photons, which are tiny units of light. LED lights have been around since the 1960s, and they last a lot longer than the more common incandescent light bulb.
Then why don't people switch to LED instead?
Because they are also much more expensive. An LED usually costs about 100 times more than a single light bulb. If you replace all of the incandescent light bulbs in your house with LED, it will likely cost thousands of dollars to make that change.
How much longer do LED lights last?
A lot longer. They can last as long as 50,000 hours total. How long is 50,000 hours? Consider this. If you used an LED light for 6 hours per day, every single day, it would last for about 23 years.
This topic was illuminating. I loved learning about light bulbs with you guys.
Me too. And before we go, we need to answer the question of the week. How long has the longest lasting light bulb in the world been burning?
Since the year 1901. So it's been burning for 118 years.
That's amazing. It's located in Livermore, California, and it is maintained by the Livermore Pleasanton Fire Department. It has been recognized as the longest-lasting light bulb by the Guinness Book of World Records, Ripley's Believe It or Not, and General Electric. Well, that's a wrap for this episode.
Thank you for listening to this week's podcast, number 37 on light bulbs.
Great job, Olivia. Before I say goodbye, I want to thank all of the patrons that have decided to support our show. Making this podcast is something that Olivia and I truly enjoy, but it costs money to put this podcast together, and it really means so much to us that some of you have decided to chip in and help us keep on going. If you are interested in becoming a patron for as little as $1, please visit our Patreon page on patreon.com/CuriousKidPodcast. That's Patreon. So patreon.com/CuriousKidPodcast. Our supporters get lots of cool perks for helping us out, like shoutouts in an episode, signed transcripts, merchandise, and info about episodes months before they air. Please check us out on patreon.com to find out more. As always, Thank you so much for listening and getting curious with us.